The working title for this video is explaining the entire plot of the first Mistborn book, so some book bro can't make you feel ignorant for not knowing anything about real fantasy. But we'll see if that is too much for the character limit on the YouTube. I have a little iced coffee. I like to drink coffee black, but I also like pretty things. I just feel like it's pretty to have it go like, woo. Got the second book. I'm not very far into it. It has a little glossary, index, something in the back of it, and that's really quite helpful for me. To get into this, we're just gonna start with like the general world. Hello, my friend. This is Editing Faith. I am currently editing this video, and that's why I'm here. And I just wanted to pop in and say I didn't say a single thing about the way that the world is, like the appearance of it, and I thought it was important, so I'm here. And you're going to see me several other times, because it turns out that when you have a human being stealing all of your brain cells, it's hard to remember things, I guess. Also, if anyone comments on my pregnancy breathing, I will do nothing, but it will hurt my feelings, so please don't. Anyway, the sun is burning red. Ash is falling all day long, so the ska are covered in ash. And it's kind of like a sign of wealth to be clean, because the noble people, the noble men and women, are able to keep their clothes and their keeps clean. At nighttime, there is the mist, and the mist is like mystical, mysterious, and creepy to all of the ska, because they have heard rumors of mist wraiths, which are scary, but also they're harmless, really. Just kind of scavengers that won't hurt you and aren't really inside the city, so you don't have to worry about them. But the ska are scared of them. Noble people aren't. The mist also swirls around you when you're using your allomancy. Isn't that fun? What a cool thing. There is not a single green thing. Everything is brown. Basically, Sahara Desert. Not a single thing alive except for the people. And that's questionable, because are you really alive if you have no freedom? Okay, I'll see you again later. I don't know what the place is called, but there's a bunch of little cities. And then there's the main capital, which is where most of this story takes place. At least like 80% of this story takes place in or around Luthadel. I don't know how to read, so don't expect me to know how to pronounce things. Luthadel is the main capital of this world. In Luthadel, that is the headquarter, like base area where the castle for the Lord Ruler is. The Lord Ruler is basically God, but a bad guy, bad God, not good God, bad God. And he came to power because he was able to defeat the darkness and reach the well of ascension, and he became like all powerful. It's what people are made to believe, that he can't be killed, that he's all powerful, and that he's literally just like the attributes that you would give to God, give it to this guy, but make it a lie. Like it's a lie that he's that way. And a lot of people know that, but the ska, which are basically the peasant slave labor, don't realize that it's a lie. They believe that he's all powerful and can do whatever he wants, and that their situation is hopeless. So there are a couple of different types of ska. There's the plantation ska, which work on a plantation for the noblemen. We'll get to them in a second. There are the merchant ska, which serve the noblemen, like clothing or like woodworking, metalworking, that sort of stuff. Just any sort of trade that you might have or be able to do. That's what those ska do. And then there are the thieving ska, which are part of crews and like basically gangs that just steal money from noblemen by running cons. The noblemen are supposedly the descendants of the people that helped the Lord Ruler ascend and like defeat the darkness and blah, 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 blah. So it's like a reward to those people, he gave them an elevated status in society and also gave them allomantic powers. Now, allomancy, what is that, Faith? I have no idea. I'm just kidding. So the allomancy is, you know what? There's a definition in the back of the book. Let me just read that to you. Allomancy, a mystical, hereditary power involving the burning of metals inside the body to gain special abilities. So there are, in the first book, there are 8 known metals that people burn to have their own allomantic powers. Do you want me to go through that? Let me just read it from the book. Iron pulls on nearby sources of metal. There's a window here. If I'm pulling on my window frame, I would be pulled towards it because the window frame is intact. Or if I throw a coin, I could pull the coin to me. Steel pushes on nearby sources of metal. Same situation. Pushing on the metal, I'm pushed away. Drop a coin, I push the coin away. They're also called, the people that push the metal are called coin shots because they can take the metal and take coins and just decimate a person, completely fill them with holes from these coins. Tin increases the senses. Pewter increases the physical abilities of your body. Brass soothes or dampens emotions, and zinc riots or inflames an emotion. Copper hides allomantic pulses. An allomantic pulse is the kind of exactly what it sounds like, the pulse that is sent off when you are burning one of these metals to use your allomancy. So copper hides that pulse, while bronze allows one to hear or see allomantic pulses. So any person that has noble blood will either have one or all of those allomantic abilities. You're an allomancer if you have one. You're a Mistborn if you have them all. Mistborns are less common, but they obviously happen. Also in this world, there are, what are they called? Steel Inquisitors and Obligators. They're kind of like Steel Inquisitors or the Obligators messed up cousins, is my kind of understanding of it. The Obligators run everything bureaucratic. So the finances of this world and the church, they are the head of the church, and the church is for the Lord Ruler. So they spread the propaganda for the Lord Ruler. They do the trade. They do everything. Anything that you can think of that's bureaucratic, Obligators do it. Steel Inquisitors are the police force, basically, and they are freaky. I don't think Brandon Sanderson was okay when he thought of them. They have visible spikes driven directly through their eyeballs, so the spike comes out the back of their head. They don't have eyes. It's just a steel black spike in their eye. But they're the police force, and they are allomancers. I think they're not technically Mistborn, but kind of Mistborn, I guess, because they can do all of the allomantic things. So our main character, getting into the real story here, there's kind of 2 main characters, but the main character is really Vin. But Kelsier is one of the main characters, and he is a Mistborn, and Vin is the other, and she is a Mistborn. They are both Ska. They were made Mistborn because one of their parents is a nobleman and messed around with a Ska woman. And the thing that they're supposed to do after they mess around with a Ska woman is murder her, because you're not supposed to pass on those special genes. But obviously they didn't kill them, or they were just careless or whatever, who knows? It doesn't matter how they were made. That's just that's the way it is. The story opens with Kelsier absolutely destroying this guy's plantation, not in Luthadel, in a different city, because he is wanting to mess around with a teenage Ska, and Kelsier knows that he's not very nice, for one, and that after all of that goes down, she's going to get killed. So he burns his entire keep to the ground. His mansion, house, whatever it's called, the keep. Burns it to the ground. So Vin is 16, I believe, and she is part of a thieving crew led by, I think the guy's name is Cameron. Cameron is trying to pull this deal. He's working with another thieving crew who he is going to betray and steal the money from anyway, but he's working with them. The deal is some sort of, like, he's pretending to be a nobleman, and he's going to pretend to be, like, able to trade something, like ferrying something. I don't remember. It's not that important, but it is a little important. Just, you can read the book, but it's not that important. In Cameron's crew, Vin is one of the only girls. She was there with her brother. His name is Reen, and her whole life has told her, everyone's going to betray you. Don't trust a single person, not even me, because I will betray you someday too. And then he does. He disappears. And so she's alone in this thieving crew, not really knowing what to do, not trusting a single person. But she stays around because Cameron wants her there because he's convinced that she's his good luck charm, because she uses what she calls luck. Anytime that, well, for one thing, she uses it to, like, push off men's advances, because again, all these men in this thieving crew, and she's 16, and also to sort of just bend people to her will a little bit, or more really Cameron's will. So Cameron is bringing her along. He has to meet with an obligator in the Canton of Finance. The Canton is basically like the department of, so the Canton of Finances. Now, obligators are trained to sense allomancy. Now, Vin doesn't know it, but she is using allomancy. She is burning brass to dampen this guy's emotions and make sure that he's only feeling like, what's the word? I can't think of it. I'm too pregnant for this. Only feeling like he's going to, like, trust. He's feeling trust. He's going to trust Cameron, this nobleman. And the guy agrees to this deal and gives Cameron a bunch of boxings, which is cash, the money of the world, to do whatever it was with the trade and the ferrying and the whatever. As they're leaving, Vin and Cameron walk past Dachshund and Kelsier. Now, Kelsier got a hint from his brother Marsh that Vin might be a Mistborn. He was able to sense that she was burning 2 metals in his shop. Marsh is some sort of merchant Scot. But Marsh is also able to burn, I think it was copper. Gosh, this thing is very convenient, but I feel dumb for having to look every 10 seconds. Marsh is able to burn bronze to be able to hear other people's allomantic pulses, and he's able to detect what they're burning, so he's able to tell that she's burning 2 types of metals. The way that she's getting her metals is probably just the way that she's, like, if she's eating stuff off of pewter or zinc or whatever, like whatever you ingest metal in your water, and iron and cereal. Marsh gets the word to Kelsier. Kelsier is watching Vin and realizes, uh-oh, this obligator is following behind them with a Steel Inquisitor. That's not good news. So Kelsier throws them off the trail of Vin and goes to Camon's underground hideout safe house. Before Kelsier gets there, Camon beats Vin because she has a weird feeling about what happened in the Canton of Finance. She doesn't trust it. And so she tells some guy that she feels like she's close with and can trust and maybe is friends with, I am going to run away. Do you want to run away with me? And he's like, go get your stuff. And then that guy betrays her and tells Camon that she's going to run away. So Camon beats her. Kelsier walks in either right after or towards the end of her being beat. And he's not happy about that. He is a feminist icon, obviously. And he tells Camon, haha, you're not the crew boss anymore, actually. You're going to live on the streets like a beggar. That stinks for you, but you beat this 16-year-old child girl. So goodbye. Cameron is scared of Kelsier. Everyone is scared of Kelsier. Vin doesn't know why, but it's because his sleeves are rolled up just enough that you can see all along his arms are a bunch of scars. She takes note of that, doesn't know what it means, but everyone calls him the survivor. Kelsier appoints a new guy to be the head of this crew, and he says, you get everyone out of here. I want to talk to Vin. Vin doesn't trust him, obviously, but Kelsier wants to see if she has allomantic powers besides just being able to dampen emotions. So he has a little vial with 2 metals in it, and he says, drink this. She's like, absolutely not. He's like, I'll drink half of it if you drink half of it. So that way she'll do it. And she does. And she notices the way that her luck is for her is it's like stash piles in her body. I don't know where, belly or heart or in her mind's eye, you know, however it's envisioned for her. But she sees a second pile appear after she drinks the vial. And she's like, that's interesting. That has never really happened before. But I recognize that metal. So Kelsier tells her to use the metal that she's familiar with, which is the dampening emotions, whatever it was. I don't remember, whatever. And he's like, cool, yep, we knew that you could do that. Now go into the other one and try to use it. And she does. And she uses it successfully. Kelsier's like, cool, Mistborn, we're going to train together. Dachshund and Kelsier are just drinking all of the wine in Cammon's safe house, and new people come in. There's Breeze and Ham, who seem to be like kind of a little bit of buddies. Breeze is able to burn brass, and Ham is able to burn pewter. They are called, when you're able to burn pewter, you're either called a thug or pewter arms, because pewter enhances your physical abilities, and so he's just like a tough guy, and he has his own little crew of other thugs and pewter arms that he uses. And Breeze also has his own crew of rioters and soothers that he uses. They burn the brass and the zinc, and Ham's people burn pewter. Another guy comes in. He's a grumpy old man. He's got like a little companion. His name is, I think it's Lesterborn or something like that, but Kelsier's like, that name is too hard, so we're calling you Spooks. So Clubs and Spooks come in. Clubs can burn copper. Copper is the one that disguises allomantic pulses, hides them. So they call them smokers because you can't see the allomantic pulses. And then Spooks is a tin eye. Tin enhances your senses, so he's able to see better and hear better and feel better. Then one last guy comes in. His name is Yedin. Yedin is a Ska, a plantation Ska, but also the head of the Ska rebellion. Now, they don't have very many numbers, and they haven't ever been able to accomplish anything ever. They've given Kelsier, I think, like 40,000 boxings or something to be able to start a Ska rebellion. So they're meeting with all these people to be like, you guys want to do this with us? And they assume, everyone there assumes that Vin is just there as like a middleman between a thieving crew that doesn't have any allomantic powers and this crew that is obviously very allomantically powerful. But she's not. She's Mistborn, and Kelsier's going to train her. Long story short, everybody decides to join in. They meet at Clubs' shop. Is that even proper? I don't know. But they meet there like the next day or two to be able to make a game plan for starting this rebellion and like making it work to be able to overthrow the final empire. That is the goal of the Ska rebellion, is to overthrow the final empire. In this meeting, they come up with basically like 3 main points that need to happen. They need to amass a Ska army and train them of at least 10,000 soldiers to be able to do any sort of good at taking over the garrison that's in the city of Luthadel. They also want to start a nobleman war, make the noble houses fight with each other, and they need to steal the atium from the Lord Ruler's safe, because if they can, you know what, we're gonna get, here's a little atium is one of the allomantic metals. Did I mention it when I first talked about the metals? I don't think I did, actually. Let me flip through so I can talk to you about it. I talked about the main 8, but there's in the first book there's actually 10. I'm so sorry, I forgot. I messed up already. Oh, all the book bros are gonna kill me. Atium, this is how I'm choosing to pronounce it. It helps you see into other people's futures. You can see their next movement. So if you take Atium, then you have an advantage of being able to see in a fight what the other person's next move is and be able to dodge it. And then there's gold, and you can see into your own past, which most Mistborn feel is kind of useless. They want to steal all the Lord Ruler's Atium because he has a hoard of it and sells it at exorbitant prices to the noblemen, because the noblemen all have their own like allomantic armies, basically, or like guards, really, that protect their houses and blah, 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 blah. And some of them are Mistborn. And so Atium is really, really beneficial for a Mistborn. But because he controls the market of the Atium, if they are able to steal it or steal even a little bit of it and distribute it out, it would cause a financial collapse. And so that's goal number 3, is financial collapse of the final empire. So for the first one, amassing the Ska army, the way that they're doing that is they are holding like meetings, secret meetings all throughout Luthadel and in the surrounding cities during the Ska's lunch hours. And Breeze, who is the lead soother, sends out his team into this crowd of Ska to be able to soothe or riot their emotions. He does this to influence them into joining the Ska rebellion army and go off into some caverns to be trained. Kelsier is at every single one of these meetings because he is the survivor and he has influence with the people because he's kind of legendary. What did he survive? He survived the pits of Hassan. That is the place, which is, it's basically a prison camp, like that, like World War II vibe prison camp, where you go there and you die. And it's for the Ska that have done something pretty not good, like have rebelled in some way, to have to go there. It's the place where they harvest the Atium for the Lord Ruler. And it's all slave labor and no one comes out, no one survives. So nobody really even knows what the pits of Hassan are even for, except for Kelsier and the people that he chooses to tell. But still, it's like a big deal that he survived it because no one's ever come out of it, and he's got the scars on his arms and everyone's like, oh my gosh, the pits of Hassan, no one's ever come out of there. That's so crazy. You know. So he's becoming more and more legendary as time goes on through this plan with the Ska, and they kind of idolize him and like have kind of made him their own personal deity, really. Like he's like a prophet, if you will, which the rest of the team has an issue with. They're like, you're getting too notorious and that's dangerous for our cause. But Kelsier's like, please, seriously, just trust me. I've got this. And they're like, we trust you. We're confused. And we also don't like it, but we'll shut up about it for now. Part 2 of the plan, starting house wars between the noblemen. Kelsier basically just is like, here's a secret here, here's a secret there, here's a murder, just kind of concocting a whole thing. It's he manipulates it into making it look like this house killed this guy because of this secret, and this secret over here means that this guy over here did this thing, blah 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 blah. You know, he spins a web and makes the houses unsettled. But also part of that plan is Vin is infiltrating noble society. She becomes Valette Renault, is how I say it. Again, I can't read, so do what you will with that pronunciation. But she becomes Villette Renault, the niece of Lord Renault, who is a fake nobleman that just moved into town. He lives outside of Luthadel in the Renault keeps. His job in the plan is to do weapon trading, and that is what his main source of income is as a nobleman. But the ulterior motive is to be able to get those weapons to the Ska Rebellion in the caverns that are however far away. So there's pretty much the whole middle part of the book is a training montage of Vin using her allomantic powers, figuring out how to get stronger and learning how to use everything in a beneficial way. And Kelsier learning, why is this 16-year-old girl so strong? Like, she should not be able to push so hard against me, because when you push and pull metals, it is also based a little bit on your like body weight. So if like my 2-year-old is going to push metals, I'm going to be able to push harder than she is. But Vin is sort of matching almost Kelsier's push, and Kelsier is like 6'5", 6-figure kind of guy, big, so he's confused by that. So what's going on with Vin? The first party she goes to is at Keep Venture. The Ventures are the most well-to-do and successful and notorious family in Luthadel. They are rich, they are stealthy and cunning, and nobody knows where they get their money from. But they just have it. They just have money. Okay. But she's at this keep. Her terraceman, his name is Sazed, and he goes off to the servants' quarters to talk with the servants and try to get some details there. And Vin's job at this first ball is to just sort of introduce herself to the noble society. So she's just wandering around, not really talking to anyone, just being seen. And that's her goal. But she wanders up to this balcony to look at the stained glass windows. And every single keep has stained glass windows that basically depict the battle between the Lord Ruler and the darkness and how he defeated it. That's basically every stained glass window is like that, but they're very beautiful. So she wanted to look at them. She goes up there and she's standing on this balcony and she's underneath this little lantern. And some guy walks up. He's all disheveled. His suit's ill-fitting, and he's just, whatever. He's not necessarily very respectful to her. And he's like, "I can't believe you stole my spot. This is like the best place with the reading light." And she's like, "You're reading at a party like this? Like, aren't you supposed to be dancing and blah, 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 blah? You're a nobleman. This is where you get all your gossip and this is the only way you have fun. What are you doing up here reading?" He's like, "I've been to like 8 million of these parties. If you had been to 8 million of these parties, you would want to sit up here and read the whole night too." So they have a little bit of a moment, and she's kind of thinking about him a little bit because she thinks he's a little cute. And he says his name is, the way that I've been saying it is Eland. But in this book, they nickname him El. So is his name Elend? I like Eland better. I do. So I'm going to call him Eland. After every ball, she has meetings with Kelsier to go over everything she learned on it. So this first ball that she went to, she says, "I met some guy named Eland." And they're like, "Eland Venture?" And she's like, "You didn't tell me his last name." And they're like, "That was Eland Venture. You met the kid of the most influential family of all the noblemen in Luthadel, and you had a fight with him?" And she's like, "I guess, like, oops, like, what do you want me to do?" And they're like, "Stay away from Eland Venture." The following party that she goes to, Eland comes to the table she's sitting at and like throws all his books down on the table and is reading there, not talking to her, just reading his books and wandering off and coming back and reading his books some more. And she's like, "Are you gonna leave? Like, all of these guys want to dance with you. They're scared of you. And I want to dance with these guys," because she wants the information from them. So she sort of beckons over one of the more curious men and starts dancing with him. And he was like, I was so nervous to come talk to you because Elend was sitting at your table and he's, you know, intimidating. This guy is like a low nobleman because no high nobleman is going to ask her to dance because she doesn't have any sort of influence in Luthadel yet. So she's kind of a low noble woman. He's like, I was nervous to dance with you because of Elend. And she's like, oh, Elend. Oh, he's just a family friend. My uncle and Lord Venture go way back, blah, blah, blah. And so this guy starts a rumor that the Lord Venture and the Lord Renault have some sort of weapon trade deal going on, and their money and blah, blah, blah. And Kelsier finds out about it, and it's like a little bit of a wrench in his plan. It's not really like, it's not a big deal, but he's like, you need to be careful about what you say, Vin, please. Also at this party, she meets, I don't remember what her name is. I don't remember her name. I'll look it up later. Elend's ex-fiance. And Vin is able to burn brass. Gosh, why can't I ever remember the ones that are the emotional ones? She's able to burn brass. And she tells Vin to like keep an eye on Elend and report back to her, and she's trying to use her for some sort of weird plan that Vin knows nothing about. And Elend's ex-fiance, whose name, again, I don't remember, I'm so sorry, has her servant go over and start shuffling through Elend's books. And Vin is like, no, don't do that. Because Vin had started reading some of them, and some of the books that Elend is reading are not very favorable for the Lord Ruler. So what's going on with Elend? At these little parties, Elend also has meetings with the heirs, or like children of, not necessarily the heirs, but like a few down the line, of other keeps that are supposedly supposed to be his enemy, but they're getting together and they're having like a get-together boys' night, talk about the books they're reading and drink alcohol thing. So there's several more balls, several more training sessions. One of the training sessions, Kelsier is like, cool, you did great job, I'm gonna go. And she's like, where are you going? He's like, none of your business. I gotta go to town. Bye. She's like, so I'm following you. Actually, I'm gonna follow you and see what you're up to, because I don't trust you and I trust no one, actually. So I'm following you. Gets into town. He tells her the plan that he has, despite the fact that he's upset at her for following him. Now, we get a little bit of a lore drop on Kelsier here, so I'm going to give it to you as well. He says that in the Lord Ruler's castle, there's this weird little spire. And in that spire is a room. So there's a big room with a little room inside of it. And he wants to know what's in that little room, because the Lord Ruler goes into that little room for like every 3 days for a whole day or something like that. And he's intrigued. What could be in there? It has to be either valuable or give us some information about the Lord Ruler, like what's going on. So he tells Vin that the heist that threw him into the pits of Hassan was him and his wife trying to figure out what was in that little room. But somehow the Lord Ruler found out that they were going to be there, and there was obligators waiting at the door of the big room. So they didn't even get to go into the big room, and they were thrown in the pits of Hassan, and his wife died in the pits of Hassan. So somebody betrayed Kelsier. We don't have any sort of hint at this point who it might have been. There's a lot of people in on the job, but it is explained later who Kelsier thinks betrayed him. So he's like, I want to go in there. I haven't made any plans. This is impromptu. So they can't know that I'm coming, right? Wrong. He takes Vin with him. Vin insists on going, really. He doesn't want to take her with. They break into the castle. They're fighting obligators. They get to the room. They open the door. There's 3 inquisitors in there. 3 steel inquisitors. Remember, those guys are the police force, super dangerous, have every elemental power, are huge and scary. I would have nightmares about them if I ever saw them. Please don't ever make a movie, because I don't want to see them in real life. My brain is enough. My brain did enough. 2 of those inquisitors go after Vin, because Kelsier says, Vin, get out of here. Run away, because those guys will kill you. Run. She starts running. 2 of the Inquisitors come after her, and they are like, who is your dad? We know you're Mistborn. Who is your dad? Somehow they've been able to track her. Oh, I forgot some part. I forgot a little piece of information. It's not like it's that important, but it's a little bit important. So you remember how Vin was in the safe house or whatever, and Cammon's whole team was there, and whatever. Somehow, after Kelsier had finished his meeting and Cammon's crew, that's no longer Cammon's crew because he kicked Cammon out on the street, came back in, the Steel Inquisitor was able to find that hideout, even though they shouldn't have been. Like, how could they have? And slaughter every single person in that crew. Vin, Kelsier, and Doxson, and I think maybe Sazed, her terracemen. Well, they are terracemen, but really hers. All go, and they see the carnage. The floor is covered in blood, like not a clean spot on it, just a nice layer of red, slick blood. And let me tell you another thing. I was reading this book, and my daughter, sometimes when I'm reading a book, she's like, oh, read to me. And so somehow that is the chapter, the start of the chapter, that she was like, yeah, read me that book. And I was like, actually, Mom isn't going to read this. I'll read you one of your books. Dr. Seuss, does that sound good? Dr. Seuss, sounds good to me. Because I'm not going to put that in her brain at 2. I put it in my brain at 25. Somehow the Inquisitors were able to track her there. And then they also were somehow able to track down Cammon, and they did some dirty stuff to him, hung him by a hook, and he's dead. Cammon's also dead, no longer a street beggar. So they're able to track Vin somehow. They have some sort of pin on Vin. They know something about her. They want to figure out who her dad is. Anyway, in the big castle, they want to find out who her dad is. She doesn't really know who her dad is. She knows what he looks like, but she doesn't know who he is. But they're like assaulting her and trying to get out. She breaks into this one room, some random room, and she finds this big book with some like metal clips on the end or whatever, but it's like a thick leather bound, and is holding it up to be able to defend herself against these sharp like metal triangles they're throwing at her, because again, being able to push and pull the metals, they're pushing metal at her to try to kill her and hurt her very badly. At some point, one of them like stabs her through the side. That scared me. And she's severely injured. She barely escapes the castle, and she's outside jumping from spire to spire with her allomantic stuff, burning pewter so that way she can get through this pain somehow. And she's also burning the copper to smoke herself out. So they shouldn't be able to see her. And so she hides. She pushes the book, because when you are able to push and pull the metal, the way that it works is you see little blue lines. So she gets rid of her coin purse that she's able to like throw metal and push and pull on the metal. And she pushes the book away really, really far, so it looks like she's gone. So she has no metal on her body. They shouldn't be able to see her. She's burning copper, and she's hiding. But somehow an Inquisitor is still able to find her. But she passes out before he's able to do anything, and sort of wakes, like is half awake, half asleep, and sees Sazed sort of like taking care of this Inquisitor and scooping her up and running away with her. It's also raining. It's not necessarily important, but you can't see. It's a stormy night, foggy because of the mist, raining. So how did that Inquisitor find her? Anyway, Sazed takes her back to the clubhouse, if you will, club's shop, and has her take some pewter in her sleep. She's unconscious. Has her take some pewter in her sleep, and she's unconsciously burning pewter to keep herself alive. And he starts performing basic like surgery to keep her alive and fix her up, her internal organs and everything. And she's in a coma for like 2 weeks or something. And the whole time, Mr. Lesterborns or whatever, Spooks, is by her bedside, taking care of her, watching her, waiting for her to wake up. He's called Spooks for a good reason, because he doesn't really talk much, and he's kind of like really shy. And so when she finally does wake up, he's just like, oh, and runs away and gets someone else. But she wakes up finally. She has to miss a bunch of parties because she's in recovery. But noble society is under the impression that she's just got really, really sick for some reason, had a weird sickness, very sick, out of parties for a month. But that's harmful to the rebel plan of figuring out information. So Kelsey is having to do double time and pay these informants that somehow are able to get information about the noble people and learning stuff that way. Anyway, Kelsier gives her strict instructions that she's not allowed to use any of her physical allomantic powers. In this time, Sazed, so you remember the book that she pushed away and got from that weird room and was like, interesting book, this is my protection. Sazed was able to find that book, and he can interpret the book. So Sazed is a Terraceman because he's from Terrace, which is like a whole other culture, and they have their own religion, even though it's like illegal right now to have any religion but being under the Lord Ruler. And they don't know what their religion is forgotten, basically. So do they really have a religion if they don't know what the religion is? Not really. They're trying to figure it out. They're searching. That's what the Terracemen do, is they search for information and they find stuff out because ultimately they want to figure out their religion. Anyway, Terracemen have an ability called, again, can't read, Ferukemi? Something like that. The word's on the screen. Gives them ability to store like physical attributes, knowledge, memory, whatever, in metal that they have pierced in their body, wherever. They've got a lot of piercings, and they are piercings because you cannot push or pull on metal that is in somebody's body. So there's that. Sazed has this ability. One of the languages that he has stored away is whatever language is in that book that Vin found. So Sazed starts translating it, and it actually seems to be kind of helpful for the heist group overthrow the final empire. And so he's distributing as he's translating to Kelsier and Doxson, everybody on the team, Vin, everybody, and they're reading it. The book appears to be a logbook of everything that like transpired as the Lord Ruler came to be the Lord Ruler, basically his trip to ascension, or whatever you want to say. So how the Lord Ruler came to be, a quick little briefing here. There was in the Terrace religion some sort of prophecy about the Hero of Ages, who was going to be an outsider, not a Terraceman, and going to push back the darkness, and I think also go to the Well of Ascension. I think that's from what I've gleaned from this logbook, that's what the Lord Ruler was supposed to be. In this logbook, the Hero of Ages is traveling with a couple of other Terracemen, a couple of other people, whatever, and he's observing their abilities. So as Vin is reading this logbook, that is when she's learning and able to ask Sazed questions, because she's stuck in Keep Renault, not able to do any training or go to any balls. She's asking Sazed questions about Terrace people, and she's learning that they are able to store their age and their strength and their eyesight and knowledge, like a lot of things. So that book that she stole is proving to be quite helpful for them, because they're getting a little bit of insight into the Lord Ruler's previous life, if you will, before he became the Lord Ruler. And Vin is having trouble like combining the person she knows as Lord Ruler, very cruel, evil, powerful, controlling, manipulative, awful man, with this person in the logbook who seems like genuinely concerned for the world and like wanting to make it better and yada, yada, yada. Isn't able to make them mesh, confused about it. Now, before she goes to the first party that she's going to after being stabbed through by a Steel Inquisitor and almost dying, Spooks gives her a handkerchief. Now, whatever could that mean? Says to the rescue. He's got all the information because he's able to store all of his knowledge in his earring. So she asks Says, Spooks gave me this handkerchief. What does that mean? And Says says, uh-oh, Spooks got a crush on you. That means that he is wanting to pursue you as a potential suitor. Like, he's interested in marrying you. And she's like, what? Like, okay. And I think she stuffs it into her sleeves and goes to the party or whatever. For weeks after that party, Elend Venture is ignoring her. And she learns at this point, she didn't know before, the habit of noblemen to sleep with Ska women and then murder them. And Dachshund, who was on a Ska plantation and his wife was killed that way, learns from Dachshund this habit of them, and Dachshund is very callous. He's like, every nobleman is that way. You look at them all, they're all that way. And so she can't help going to these parties and looking at these people and being disgusted and like concerned because they hold Ska in such a low level. Like, the religion of this world, the religion that is propaganda, the Lord Ruler is the highest all-powerful being. The noblemen have their powers. They're the only people that are like sentient enough to have free will and thought. And the Ska are brainless, dumb, weak, and need to be under submission because they are brainless, dumb, and weak. Honestly, seriously, when you think about some of these stuff, you're like, oops, World War II. So she's going to these parties and looking at all these people and is like, I'm so concerned. I hate it here and I'm disgusted. And so finally, after like 2 or 3 weeks, she sees Elend and is like, I'm talking to you. Like, come, like, get on this balcony. We're talking. I'm so frustrated. And she starts bawling in front of Elend and is like, I learned this thing about the nobleman. Please tell me you're not like that. Because she's got a little crush on Elend. And Elend is like, oh, I'm so sorry to tell you this. When I was 14, my dad said, it's time for you to be a man. And so he brought me a Ska woman. And I didn't know that she was going to get murdered. And after that, I have never done it again. And she's like, okay, that's actually, like, thank you for telling me that. I trust you for some reason. Thank you. And she pulls out the handkerchief that Spooks gave her as a token of his affection, starts wiping her eyes and trying to fix her makeup or whatever. And then Elend is like, what's with that? And she's like, oh, some guy gave it to me. And he's like, oh, here's my handkerchief. I need you to know that just because I'm giving it to you second doesn't mean I'm not going to try my best to win your affection over the other guy who gave you this other handkerchief or something like that, whatever. And when I tell you, kicking and squealing, he gave her a handkerchief, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so romantic. Ooh, ridiculous. That's the way I am, I guess. I hope it's romantic. Now, we're getting into the part of the book where it does all sorts of twisty-turny things. And so I'm trying to sort my brain into the waffle sections instead of spaghetti sections. And it's a little bit hard. Yedin, the leader of the Ska Rebellion, becomes the general of the army. They have about 7,000 men right now. They're hoping to get 3,000 more before they really get the plan going. For some reason, Yedin decides to march on a garrison. Over half of the army is killed, I think. I think there's 3,000 left of them in the caverns that were like, this is a dumb idea, so we're not coming with you. And the rest of them were slaughtered by one garrison coming this way and then another garrison that came to meet them. But the garrisons are now out of Luthadel, which was part of the plan in the first place. But a lot of their army is dead.
Hello again, it's me. I've put on chapstick since we last spoke, and my lips are so shiny. Don't look at them. You might see the true reflection of yourself. So Kelsier and Vin decided, they heard that the garrison was marching out to slaughter some random rebel army. And they were like, uh-oh, that's our random rebel army. And they thought we could probably go out and save them but they could not. They see Yedin and everyone getting slaughtered by this garrison. Kelsier's like, I could save them. And Vin is like, you cannot. You are not invincible. Let's go to the caverns and see if anybody's left. So they go to the caverns. That's how they discover that there's 3,000 men. And they get all of the people, like slowly but surely, have Dachshund take and stash the leftover rebel army in safe houses around Luthadel, like 100 men here, 100 men there. And they're telling each stash, you're the only one that we're keeping around just in case. They still have 3,000 men, but all of the men think they only have 100 men because they dismissed everybody else. But they did not dismiss everybody else.
There is a lot of noblemen that have left the city because of the nobleman wars and how it feels unstable. Marsh, who became one of their informants, he became an obligator to be able to get them more information about the obligators and everything like that. He tells them there are rioting and soothing houses in the Ska slums where people just go and send out emotions all day, basically, to keep the Ska feeling hopeless. But Marsh gets them a map of where all these soothing and rioting houses are. And also, at some point, they're supposed to have a meeting. Vin comes along with Kelsier. Before the meeting, Kelsier goes into one of the Ska slum houses and is talking with the people. And Vin is really easily able to tell that all of these Ska look up to him. They idolize him. He is like a prophet to them, truly. And also, they talk about how he was just there like last week, and he's going around to all of these Ska houses trying to inspire them and keep their hopes up like every single night. After that meeting in the Ska house or whatever, they go to the house they're supposed to meet Marsh in, and it is a bloody, massacred mess. Marsh is dead. Uh-oh, that's not good. That's bad. And so everyone's like, okay, so our plan is falling apart. And also, Kelsier insists on them watching an execution of just a bunch of Ska, because I don't remember what happened. I think it was because it was right after the Ska army fought with the garrison in whatever field, however far away, that dumb decision. So I think it was just sort of like the Lord Ruler trying to be like, you are still under my thumb. And my thumb is very small, so imagine how much smaller you are, you know? So he's, a huge execution of like hundreds of Ska people, men, women, and children. Yeah, and they watch it all. And this is when Vin discovers that she can feel the Lord Ruler's like dampening pulses, because he is constantly, everywhere he goes, constantly putting out like a pulse of hopelessness, like making you feel hopeless. She's able to feel that through her copper cloud, which is what it is when you burn copper. So you're not supposed to be able to feel the influences of other people's allomantic pulses or whatever, but she feels his anyway through her cloud. And she's like, that's weird. I don't know why that is, but she doesn't tell anyone. So at one of these parties, Vin somehow inquires about Elend's wealth in a very unsuspicious way. I don't know. And Elend is like, I want you to trust me. So you should know that the Ventures are in charge of the atium mining. We control the pits of Halfsin, and that's how we're so rich. It's because we do atium production. And she's like, that is very useful information. Thank you very much. I also love you, so I don't want to betray you to Kelsier, but I also need to overthrow the Final Empire. So sorry. So she does tell Kelsier eventually. Anyway, immediately after this, one of Elend's friends is like, hey, pal, Vin is sketchy, or Villette is sketchy, because I saw her carriage riding out of town to go to keep Brno. She wasn't in it. And this isn't the first time that that's happened. Boom, boom, boom. And so Elend has her followed, because he's like, I just told her my biggest secret, and that's dangerous for myself and for my family. And what if I don't want to die. So, has her followed, and they find out that she stays at the clubhouse. Also, one of these following nights, Kelsier and Vin are talking, and
he's sort of spilling about that heist he did with his wife that got him thrown in the pits of Hathsin again. It's when she tells him about Elend's wealth coming from the ATM mining. And he's like, oh, dang. So this is my whole backstory with the Pits of Hathsin. When they were in the Lord Ruler's castle and the Steel Inquisitors brought them to the Lord Ruler to be like, what do you want us to do with these traitors? The Lord Ruler said thank you to Kelsier's wife, which Kelsier assumed meant that she betrayed him. And so obviously the one that you love the most betraying you, that's painful, but he still loves her. And so they were at the Pits of Hathsin, mining, doing whatever. Nobody lasts long because you have to find at least one ATM gem or whatever every single week. And if you don't, then you are killed. Now, his wife knew that he had not found one that week. And so she lied to him and said that she had found two, which was not true, and gave him one of her gems, but it was the only one. And then she was killed right in front of him. And that's when he found out that he was Mistborn, because that was his snap. You have to have something traumatic happen to be able to use your allomancy. That's cool. Anyway, he tells Vin this story, and Vin is like, wait, hold on. I don't think that is what happened. I don't think she betrayed you, because I am able to feel the Lord Ruler through my copper cloud. And this is the first that Kelsier's hearing of this. And he's like, that's not possible. No, that's not possible. So what are you talking about? She's like, how about this? You burn copper and then something else. So that way I shouldn't be able to see what you're burning, but I will be able to tell you what you're burning. And so he does. And she's like, you're burning pewter or whatever it is that he's burning. And he's like, that's impossible and very intriguing. Don't tell anyone about this.
Elend has discovered that he feels that Vin has been manipulating him and getting close to him to try to get in with the dad and do some overthrowing stuff, because noblemen and bureaucratic stuff and whatever. So he's like regretting everything because he told Vin too much. Elend basically breaks up with her. They're not really dating, but he's like, I can't be with you because I need to start acting like the heir to this house that I am, because my dad is a jerk and I have to. So they kind of break up, and Vin discovers that Elend's ex-girlfriend is heading a plot to assassinate Elend Venture that was prompted by his dad, Lord Venture. Lord Venture wants to kill his own son. And it's the perfect time to do it, really, because of all the house wars. It will just look like somebody from a different house tried to kill him. She quickly leaves and goes to the roof or whatever where Elend is having his boys' night. Let's read our books that talk about how bad the Lord Ruler is and drink our alcohol. And discovers that there's 3 or 4 allomancers and a Mistborn, and that Mistborn is Elend Venture's ex-fiance. She doesn't just have the brass burning powers. She can burn everything. She burns all the metals, and that's dangerous for Vin. But Vin is able to kill her, and she kills all the other allomancers and is able to save Elend. At this point, Elend's dad is like, oh no, there was an assassination attempt on your life? Oh no. Pretending to be not in the know, but Vin knows that he knows and whatever. So it's a confusing time. But Elend doesn't know that Vin is who saved his life. He just knows that some Mistborn killed all these other allomancers and a Mistborn who was also his ex-fiance. Elend Venture was almost assassinated, okay? But Vin saved him. That's where we're at. Because he found out about Vin sort of lying to him a little bit because she lives in the clubhouse, he has her followed to the clubhouse. So the clubhouse is no longer safe, and everyone is hiding out in a safe house.
Kelsier is still going out all the time at night to talk to the Ska, assumedly, or whatever. But one of those nights, he goes to the Pits of Hassan and just destroys it. Because if you burn any sort of metal, use your allomancy around an atium gem or atium crystal, I can't remember what it's referred to in the book, it explodes and you can't use it anymore. It's ruined. So the reason that he has scars all over his arm is because there's like holes in the pits, in the walls of this cavern, that are just lined with shards of crystal or gem or whatever. And you have to reach in there to see if you can find an atium crystal, which is like a geode or whatever that has the atium metal in the middle. And it's like just a little tiny bit, but a crystal. So that's what you're searching for. But yeah, that's why he has so many scars. And he destroys all the pits and then comes back and acts like nothing happened.
A few days later, there is going to be another series of executions. This time, it's Lord Renaud and his whole house that are on the chopping block. Now, Kelsier is like, absolutely not. Even though he knows that going into this battle with the Steel Inquisitors and like the Obligators is hopeless. There's pretty much no way that he could win, even if it's him and his whole crew and Vin and everything. He goes into this fight to try to free everyone from Lord Renaud's house because they're innocent and he feels guilty that they're in trouble. Now, Kelsier's goal is not to defeat the Obligators and the Inquisitors and everything. His goal is really just to distract them long enough that Ham and a couple of the sections of the Ska army that was hidden away are able to free the prisoners of Lord Renaud's house. In this battle, Kelsier is able to kill a Steel Inquisitor. It's kind of a doozy of a battle, really. He's fighting with this one Steel Inquisitor because the other ones haven't caught up yet or doing something else. I don't know. He's fighting with one of them. And the way that it happens is a little bit like gruesome in a weird way. He hammers the spikes into the wood of one of the cars that was holding a bunch of prisoners. It's empty now, but it was holding a bunch of prisoners. So he hammers these spikes into the woods. So the Inquisitor is stuck on this trailer, can't move because his head is stuck. And then he cuts off his head. Now, the Lord Ruler shows up. Vin and the others are hopeful that Kelsier is going to be able to defeat the Lord Ruler because he had heard legends about an 11th medal that he thought he would be able to use to defeat the Lord Ruler. Now, he has tried burning this metal, which is kind of dangerous because if you're going to burn a metal that you don't know anything about, it could kill you. Or if it's not mixed right, because the allomancy is with alloys, and if it's not the correct percentages for like optimal burning, it could make you really sick, or at the very least give you a headache, a pretty good headache. So it's kind of dangerous that he's burning this 11th metal, but he tries, and he's doing some he did some research on it or whatever, and it did not help him kill the Lord Ruler. The Lord Ruler slapped him in the face really, really hard, killed Kelsier right away. And the Lord Ruler doesn't even care. He just walks away. He leaves, and Vin runs up and sees Kelsier dead and doesn't know what to do. And at this point in the book, I'm like, I don't even know what to do. I'm like, what? They're still in their safe house. They have no idea what to do. Before Kelsier died, he gave like a little bit of a nod to Lord Renaud. So he's obviously in on some sort of weird plan with Kelsier. We don't know what that is. Vin feels hopeless. But that night, all of the Ska houses are visited by like the ghost of Kelsier. Lord Renaud is actually a Khandra, which is an evolved version of a Mist Wraith. which are the creatures that wander around in the mist and are kind of mindless and harmless, but are what scares the snot out of the Ska, so they stay inside when it's dark out. So he's a Khandra, which means that he can swallow a dead person and then make his body look like that dead person. Now, Vin is disgusted by this because it's disgusting. It's absolutely vile. But it was necessary because now Kelsier is a martyr and truly is a prophet for the Ska, and all of the Ska rise up and take up arms that are stored in this warehouse that Kelsier had and didn't tell anyone about, and attack the noblemen and the whole city and any garrison that's left in the city and start truly overthrowing the final empire.
Now, because there's just Ska all over, they're attacking the noblemen, and so the noblemen are running away, just evacuating as quickly as possible. And the Venture Keep, his dad is getting ready to leave, and Elend is like, why can't we just reason with them? And his dad is like, good idea. You stay behind and you reason with the mob of Ska. Remember, his dad does not care if he dies because his dad tried to assassinate him. So he's like, yeah, you stay behind. That sounds like a good plan. You stay behind. So Elend decides that he's going to go to a different keep, which is a keep that they're like warring with. I think it's Hastings. I think that's the name of it. And it was like, let's combine our guard force so that way we have something just in case this goes wrong, but I'm going to try to reason with these Ska.
So the Khandra, which was Lord Renaud, now looks like Kelsier, gives her a note from Kelsier with the 11th medal that says, this is safe to burn. Can't figure out what it's supposed to do to help me. Can't figure out what it's supposed to do to help me defeat the Lord Ruler. Maybe you can. Give it a go. This is your part in the final empire overthrow. Get on with it. So she goes to the castle. In the castle, the guards there are actually Ska that are recruited because they get paid well and it's sort of a little bit more security for their family, whatever. Vin is like, you see what's happening? The Ska are rising up, so you might as well join them. And surprisingly, they do. They leave. The garrison that is protecting the castle, that is Ska, leave. In the castle, Vin breaks in and goes to the room within the room and discovers the Lord Ruler just sitting in a chair, like by a fireplace, like it's just his own personal study. But he looks old, man. He looks very old. She's sort of like, well, I guess it's now or never. And she takes the 11th medal, a little bit of it, and sees some guy standing next to him that's in like sort of like well dressed for a winter season with fur coats and like a beard or whatever. Just sort of looks like a paxman traveler helper guy, you know. I don't know. She doesn't know what to do with that information. She can't, that doesn't help her kill the Lord Ruler. What is she supposed to do? The Inquisitors capture her, imprison her, force her to take a different medal that eliminates all of her store piles of medals in her body. So she is helpless. She has no medals. She's in this prison cell, basically awaiting interrogation and execution. The Inquisitor that puts her there makes some sort of mention about how her brother didn't betray her secret, so they need to get the secret out of her, of who her father is. And that's when she discovers, oh, Reen didn't betray her. He was killed by Steel Inquisitors. Which is kind of sad that she's like been distrusting of her brother and had his voice of distrust in the back of her head this whole time, and then discovers, oh, he died protecting me. So she goes up to this room with a bunch of Inquisitors and a bunch of Obligators and the Lord Ruler. The Lord Ruler looks like himself again. and not the old man version that was in the room within the room. The Lord Ruler is basically like, what's the deal with this? Like, we've had this discussion about 8 million times. The Inquisitors are trying to overthrow and take charge of the Canton of Ministry, which is the church. And they've been trying to find a way to have a reason for that for, like, as long as I'm aware of, like, the past 500 years. I don't know. And they think that Vin is the key to that because her dad is the big head honcho in the Canton of Ministry. Basically, the biggest obligator there is. The head of all obligators ever. When the Lord Ruler finds out that the biggest head obligator had a kid with some ska woman, and now she's a Mistborn, he's pretty mad about it. And so the Inquisitors get to are in charge now of the Canton of Ministry, and they kill every other obligator in that canton. So there's that. The obligators are pretty much done for because the Inquisitors kill them. Now Vin has to go back to her cell and await further interrogation and or execution, which stinks because she's, again, hopeless. She's trying to, like, scrape metal off of the bars to get a little bit of something to ingest. She doesn't have any in her mist cloak. In her clothes that she has vials of stuff, but they took all of her clothes and everything. She's just in her undergarments or whatever in this prison cell. And then they throw Sazed in, and Sazed is completely naked and, like, super thin and not looking good. And he's beat and bloodied. Poor guy, because he was going to try to rescue Vin. He swallowed some of his metal. Usually only the Fear Chemi people, whatever, they have it in their piecings. He was like, I took a note from the Mistborn and I swallowed my metal to hide it away so that way they couldn't take it away because they had ripped out all of his piercings. So he couldn't use his Fear Chemi. He stored strength in the ring that he swallowed, and so he's able to break them out of prison, and he only has like a couple of minutes of strength stored in that little piece of metal because it's all that he could manage on such short notice. But it's enough. They're able to get out. They fight a little bit. She's able to get to her clothes. She takes a vial and defeats the obligators that are in the hallway. And Eland comes in with some of the garrison and is like, I'm so confused because I thought that you were a noblewoman and you're actually a ska and a Mistborn. Crazy. This is a crazy revelation for me to be having. So she's like, Eland, get out of here. Take Sazed with you. Like, protect Eland for me. Thank you. And Vin goes back up to the room with the Lord Ruler to try to kill him again. Because she has an idea. She thinks that if she takes that 11th metal and goes to stab whatever person that's there but isn't there, it will kill the Lord Ruler. She thinks that wrongly because it's just sort of like an illusion, I guess you could say, of his past self. Because of this assassination attempt, the Lord Ruler doesn't really even bat an eye, but he calls in his Inquisitors, and one of those Inquisitors is Marsh. What? I thought he was dead. So the Lord Ruler calls in these two Inquisitors. One of them is Marsh, and Marsh kills the other Inquisitor by pulling out a spike that is in his lower back. So how many spikes do these guys have that aren't visible? That's the question. 11. I don't know anything about that. There's more on that probably in this second book. Hopefully, I would love to figure it out. It seems also, again, really freaky, but that's how it goes. So Marsh has killed all of the Inquisitors, and he's the only Inquisitor left in the castle, which is a good thing, because if he's the only one that's left and he's on the good guys team, they kind of got an unstoppable force going on. But they're also trying to fight the Lord Ruler. So it's Marsh and Vin against the Lord Ruler. And the Lord Ruler is able to push and pull the metal inside of her stomach that she drank from the vials. And she's like, that's not supposed to happen. And somewhere in the fight, the Lord Ruler is now shirtless. And he's got rings embedded in his arms. And she's like, that's crazy, because that, like, maybe he's using fear-chemy and allomancy, both at the same time. And that's where he's drawing his power. And that's why he was old in that room, because he was storing up his age to be able to be immortal, basically. And because he's able to enhance the allomancy through the fear-chemy and vice versa, he's basically immortal because he's storing up his age. Kind of a little bit confusing, but that's basically what it is the joint coupling of the fear-chemy and the allomancy. He's storing up age to be immortal for forever. And she's realizing that the image that she is seeing of his past self is not the hero of ages, the person that wrote the logbook. It is one of the people that is in the logbook. Rashek is his name. Rashek hated whatever the hero of ages name is. I don't think it's said. But he hated him. He hated him because he didn't feel like that guy was actually supposed to be the hero of ages, and that he didn't agree with the prophecy, and he was upset that the hero of ages came from outside of the Terraceman culture, yada yada yada. So he killed him and took his place, basically, somehow, and is now the Lord Ruler that we know and love today. And that's why he's able to use fear-chemy. And the assumption is that at the Well of Ascension, that's when allomancy was introduced into the world, because before then, allomancy didn't exist, and the world was a happy place with green plants and flowers and a sun that didn't burn scorching red and rain ash. So Vin realizes all of this in a short minute as she's like being suffocated to death by the Lord Ruler because she's pushing him against the wall. She's like, well, if he can push the metals in my body, maybe I can pull the metals in his body. And somehow is able to rip out his armbands that are pierced into his skin that he's using as fear-chemy to store his age. What's going on with Vin? Again, shouldn't be able to do that. And she's able to pierce other people's copper clouds. Shouldn't be able to do that. What's going on with her? Why does she have these weird powers that the Lord Ruler also possesses? What's going on with Vin? But yeah, so that slowly starts to kill the Lord Ruler. And as he's dying, he says, like, you have no idea what you've done and what I was holding back and blah, 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 blah. Sort of ominous, like what's to come that the Lord Ruler was holding back. And he's not just talking about like political dissent or like financial ruin for the society. There's clearly something bigger going on. Yeah, they kill the Lord Ruler. Marsh and Vin stab him or something, kill him. And Elend starts taking over to try and make the society a better place. Vin is remembering that all of these metals seem to have a counterpart that is like the equal opposite. And so she's like, so what's the 12th metal? We have to figure that out now. That's exciting.
They also search like the whole castle, everywhere surrounding the castle, all over the city, and can't find the Lord Ruler's like ATM safe or whatever, because it was assumed that he had a ton of it stored up, but they can't find it anywhere. And that's bad news bears for the economy, but it was also kind of their plan. And because Kelsier destroyed the Pits of Hassan before he basically committed suicide, the economic collapse and having to rebuild is happening. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. More about that in the second book, I think. But yeah, so basically every part of their plan worked out, but not in the way that they thought. Because the noblemen left the city, and the noblemen were fighting with each other, so that was all unbalanced. The Ska rose up. They had a huge Ska rebellion, despite the fact that like over 2/3 of their army or something died. And even though they couldn't find the ATM safe to have economic collapse, Kelsier destroyed the Pits of Hassan. So everything worked out in the end, but it's just how well did it really work out to have a functioning government that Elend is now in control of. We'll see. We'll see in the second book. I'll see you again for the second book and let you know.
So yeah, that's the first Mistborn book. I recommend it. Definitely read it. It took me a second to get into the plot, but the world building is so fun that I really enjoyed it the whole time. That's all I have to say. Have a good day. I'll see you later. Maybe get some sushi for the both of us, because I can't have any, especially the raw fish variety. That's what I really want to eat, and I can't. So let me know so I can live vicariously through you, please and thank you.